Welcome to part 1 of the EFL Championship review of the 2017-18 season. We will be showcasing the match of the week from each game week and going through the results of the other games throughout the league. So let's get into the video. We start off at Ashton Gate, where Bristol City hosted Barnsley. Josh Brownhill tested the keeper very early, but Adam Davies tipped his shot onto the bar. Barnsley hit the woodwork themselves a couple of minutes later with a thunderous strike from George Moncur. The deadlock was finally broken in the 16th minute by Bobby Reid, who was first to react after Davies had saved from Famara Diédhiou. Diédhiou would get his goal himself though 10 minutes later with a towering header after some good work from Reid. Reid was at the forefront of City's third as Joe Bryan's effort was only parried out to the local lad, who claimed his brace and put the Robins 3 up in just half an hour. They continued their dominance and almost grabbed a fourth with a Jans Hegelaar header, which was expertly saved from Davies. The second half was less eventful and included just the one goal, which came from Barnsley's Ryan Hedges, who showed great composure after a few ricochets. The win put City top of the league and their fans dreaming of what could be. Elsewhere, Ipswich claimed a 1-0 win against Birmingham, Joe Garner finishing after some great work from Grant Ward. The City ground was also the location for a 1-0 win. Billy Mackay's sumptuous debut strike sealed the win for Forest at the hands of Millwall. Relegation favourites Burton also lost 1-0. They fell to a late effort from Cardiff striker Tommy Savoy and will be looking forward to another basement battle. The televised game was Bolton versus Leeds and it didn't disappoint. 2 early goals from Calvin Phillips and Chris Wood put Leeds 2 up before this header from Gary Medine halved the deficit. However, the 2 Leeds scorers combined to confirm the victory for Thomas Christensen's side. Sunderland and Derby played out a 1-1 draw at Stadium Light, whilst the same result occurred at Villa Park, where Hull visited Villa. The game of the week comes from Griffin Park, where there were 7 goals. The flood of goals started with a well-guided header from John Egan in the 38th minute. Just 3 minutes later though, Andreas Bouchalakas replied with a stunning volley from the edge of the box after a game of head tennis. 2 minutes before half-time, Darren Murphy latched onto a parry from Daniel Bentley to give Forest the lead. Two minutes after the break, Bouchalakas claimed his second, which was arguably better than his first, curling in brilliantly from 25 yards. Another Andreas, Bielan this time, reduced the lead with a header that sneaked over the line. Forest once again scored a swift reply with Kieran Dowell getting on the score sheet with a deflected shot. Neil Maupay scored in stoppage time, but it wasn't enough to prevent a loss to a Forest side looking in good shape. Elsewhere, it was a high-tempered week. 4 red cards across the division and plenty of goals. Cardiff, Hull and Sunderland all claiming comfortable wins, whilst newly promoted Millwall and Bolton shared the spoils to get their first points of the season. The game of the week for week 3 was another 7-goal thriller and another 4-3 victory to the away side involving Millwall and the visitors Ipswich. Jed Wallace opened the scoring within a minute after Bartosz Białkowski was wrong-footed from an unfortunate deflection. They weren't behind for long though, Jordan Archer failing to deal with a Joe Garner shot to level up the two sides. Half an hour later, Ipswich turned the game on its head. Martin Waghorn finishing well at the near post. But like Ipswich did, Millwall replied quickly with a scrappy goal from Aidan O'Brien. However, Ipswich would lead going into the break. Waghorn claimed the second after David McGoldrick tormented the defence. Ten minutes from time, Tom Elliott scored in his home debut, poking in from a free kick. The scoring didn't end now, as Jordan Spence flicked in a Grant Ward free kick to give Mick McCarthy's side a well-earned win at the Down. Elsewhere, Wolves squeezed past Hull in a 3-2 scoreline, while Sheffield Wednesday and Sunderland drew at Hillsborough. Leeds vs Fulham disappointed though with a boring 0-0 scoreline at Ellen Road. Last season's playoff finalist losers Reading caused a shock with a 2-0 win over Steve Bruce's Aston Villa. The game of the week comes from the Pirelli Stadium, where an early relegation 6-pointer was on the cards. Burton faced up against Birmingham in the Friday night football. Marvin Sordell was denied early on by David Stockdale. Then Clayton Donaldson caused havoc and clipped the ball up to Lukas Jukovic, who nodded down for Jax Magoma to fire home after half an hour. Burton fought back, and just 5 minutes into the second half, Sordell turned expertly and placed a fantastic effort into the bottom corner. Donaldson was at it again later on though, but his cross to Jukovic was met with a tame header. Donaldson then had an attempt himself, but his acrobatic effort hit the woodwork. The winner would come in the 66th minute when Lucas Akins and Lloyd Dyer linked up and the latter finished off with a nice move. Birmingham did have one last chance, but Chaykin Doy's header was comfortably saved. Elsewhere, Aston Villa emphatically beat Norwich 4-2 at Villa Park, and Cardiff grabbed a win against the odds at Molineux. Ipswich continued their electric start to the season with a 2-0 victory over Brentford, while Sunderland's poor start to the campaign continued with a home defeat to an informed Leeds side. The game of the week for Week 5 was the fixture between Sheffield United and Derby County at the home of the Blades. Scott Carson assisted the first goal. Unfortunately for him, it was a goal for Sheffield United, Billy Sharp capitalising on the keeper's weak clearance. After a decent move from Derby, Andy Vyman's shot flew inches over the bar. More calamitous defending led to United doubling their lead, this time Johnny Russell, the unfortunate man, scoring a precise effort into his own net. Into the second half, and Carson made up for his error with a great save from Billy Sharp. Into stoppage time, and Craig Bryson scored a nice header across the goal to give the Rams a sliver of hope. John Fleck then almost scored an early contender for goal of the season with a delightful move that ended with a decent save from Carson. They would eventually get their insurance goal 8 minutes into added time, Sharp finishing into an empty net to seal the victory. Elsewhere, Hull and Millwall both recorded 4-0 home wins against Bolton and Norwich respectively. Barnsley also eased to victory against Sunderland at Oakwell. Two giants met at the City Ground as Leeds visited Nottingham Forest, and Leeds secured another win under Christensen, beating Forest 2-0. So at the end of the month, the table looked like this. The month ended with Cardiff top of the Championship, a great job done there by Neil Warnock. On the other hand though, Bolton and Brentford had failed to win a game yet and were both sitting on just 2 points. Also, Simon Grayson's Sunderland side had just 5 points, a lot less than their fans would have liked at the start of the season. Week 6's game of the week features Middlesbrough versus Bolton. The first chance of the half began with a long goal kick upfield, which eventually fell to Gary McGinn, whose shot was fantastically saved by Darren Randolph. Then Adama Traore showed the class and tenacity of reporting into Barcelona with this brilliant run that rounded off with an inch-perfect cross to Britt Sombalonga, who couldn't miss. Traore then went on another mazy run, but the end result was poor as Lewis Baker's shot went well over. The next to put in a dangerous cross was Stuart Downing, and he picked out Cyrus Christie, who, like Baker, fired well over. Traore continued his sheer dominance of the Bolton defence with another run and he unselfishly squared it to a Sunderlander for his second. Marvin Johnson then had a go at the defence and squeezed a shot on the Ben net to complete the rout. Elsewhere, Derby bounced back from their defeat at Sheffield United by thrashing Hull 5-0 at Pride Park, with braces from Matej Vydra and Bradley Johnson. Leeds also scored 5 in a huge victory against Burton Albion, who looked destined to be in a relegation scrap yet again. Sheffield United beat Sunderland again with 2 goals from Clayton Donaldson, which leaves the Timeware side in a difficult predicament. The game of the week comes from Molineux, involving 2 sides that were battling relegation last season but looking to leave the division the other way this time round. Ruben Neves had an early free kick sailed just over the bar. Then after some good work from Alfred and Dye, he crossed and the ball fell to Leo Bonatini, who stroked home to put Wolves 1-0 up. However, Aidan Flint eventually tied up the 2 sides with a fortunate goal after a few ricochets. Wolves' Diego Jota then had an attempt of his own after another couple of ricochets, but Frank Fielding saved well, then Bonatini skewed his shot wide. In the second half, Jota would get his goal, tapping in from a set piece. A controversial penalty followed, which Famara Diédhiou calmly tucked away to bring the sides level again. Jota then crashed a shot against the bar in an agonising game for the Portuguese winger. Against a run of play, Bobby Reid poked home after a rebound off the post from Josh Brownhill's shot. A bullet header from Danny Bath ended the scoring in a marvellous match at Molineux, which finished 3-3. Elsewhere, QPR and Millwall also played out a score draw. The match ended 2-2 in the London derby. Aston Villa versus Middlesbrough had no goals but wasn't short of action. There was a red card for either side. Adama Traore, who shined so brightly against Bolton, was sent off within 4 minutes for an off-ball incident. Then Henry Lansbury was dismissed just after the hour mark. St Andrews is the venue of the game of the week for Week 8. The game started off quite slowly with Tom Barkheisen's run at the Birmingham defence the biggest chance of the first half an hour. Then Birmingham broke the deadlock with a brilliant goal from Maxime Collin, who put the Blues 1-0 up going into the break. After calls for handball against Barkhuizen were waved away, Preston counter-attacked and the ex-Villa man Daniel Johnson scored a brilliant goal of his own to equalise. Just a few minutes later, Collin turned 0-0 as he was indecisive at the back and gave the ball away, and it eventually fell to Jordan Hugill to stroke the ball home on an hour. Barkhuizen would then get a goal for himself just 7 minutes later after a nice team move orchestrated by Johnson. Johnson had one last chance to rub salt into the wounds, but his shot was tame, and the game ended 3-1 to Preston. Elsewhere, Aston Villa scored 3 away from home, beating Barnsley 3-0 at Yorkshire. Bristol City put 4 past Derby at Ashton Gate after being behind at half-time. Burton Albion claimed a huge win against promotion hopefuls Fulham, whilst Middlesbrough beat QPR 3-2 with goals from Lewis Baker, Ashley Fletcher and Britt Assombalonga. The Steel Derby had to be the game of the week for Week 9. John Fleck opened the scoring after just 3 minutes with a wonderfully worked free kick. It got worse for Wednesday as the ex-Wednesday player Leon Clark somehow beat the offside trap and eventually slid it under Kieran Westwood. In first half stoppage time, the Owls grabbed the goal for Gary Hooper at the near post for half the deficit. Clark could and probably should have scored a second after great work from David Brooks was met with a rushed effort from Clark. They would be made to pay after 65 minutes when Lucas Zhao received the ball due to a slip and calmly rifled home the equaliser. Whilst the Sheffield Wednesday were literally still bouncing, Mark Duffy latched onto a Clark through ball and exquisitely turned the defender and beat Westwood to regain the lead. They then made sure to win after a nice 1-2 between Clark and Brooks led to the former chipping delicately over to the on-rushing Westwood to to make it 4-2 to the Blades. Elsewhere, Leeds United continued their good form, beating Ipswich at Ellen Road. Cardiff inflicted yet another defeat on Sunderland, beating them 2-1 at the Stadium of Light, Joe Rule scoring a vital goal from the penalty spot. Also, Brentford visited Bolton and came away with a 3-0 win in a very dominant performance from Dean Smith's side. Week 10's game of the week was a 7-goal thriller at Portman Road. After just 6 minutes, Martin Waghorn scored a nice header to give Mick McCarthy's team the lead. But 4 minutes later, from an Aidan McGeady corner, Billy Jones headed home. The third header of the match arrived on the half-an-hour mark, this time Jordan Spence nodding home. Cattermole could have claimed the fourth header of the match, but Bartosz Białkowski produced a wonder save. To make matters worse for Cattermole and Sunderland, Ipswich extended their lead with a Waghorn flick, when a Waghorn flick fell to Bersandt Cellina to slot home. It was 4-1 5 minutes later through Irishman David McGoldrick, who scored in unorthodox fashion to all but end the game as a contest. McGeady tried to make a game of it, scoring this curling shot to make it 4-2. It could have been 4-3 if it wasn't for Jones scuffing his lines at a vital moment. The game was eventually put to bed in the 89th minute after great work from McGoldrick set up Grant Ward, who went round the keeper to score in an empty net to score a 5-2 win for Ipswich. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of this championship review. Thank you for watching and goodbye.